you'll see it's almost identical, but in the one on the left, black has a dark squared bishop. In the one on the right, black has a light squared bishop. Now, there's two different outcomes that occur here. A lot of people, especially beginners who don't know this rook and bishop endgame, will pick the one on the left. Why? Because it seems safe and secure. Your bishop and your pawn are working together, they're protecting each other, and it feels like it's going to be a safe position that you can hold. It doesn't look like the king's coming in, and it's a bit, it looks like you're going to be able to hold a draw, right? The light square bishop, you might be able to gain some counterplay, but it looks like the king might come in, it looks like your pawn's going to be a target, it'll fall, and then you're going to lose the endgame. Well, we're going to find out, and you can pause the video and try and figure out which one is the draw and which one is the win. But in one of these endgames, white can only hope for a draw, and in the other, it's a very simple win for white. So let's get into it. I have a Lee chess study. Let's see if we can pull it up. Okay, so here's my study, and we are going to look at whether this is a draw or a win. So position one, we have our dark squared bishop and the pawn connected. Is this drawing or is this winning? This is a fairly easy win for white. You'll see white is going to bring his king to c4. Black has no real moves here other than to maybe block the king from coming in. So he plays d6. Rook slides over. It's going to look to check on the h-file and then push the king back. The king obviously cannot come forward because these squares are controlled. And then this pawn will fall. As we can see, king comes back, check. King is forced to the 7th rank, and white's king is infiltrating. This is simply because the light squares are so weak. There's nothing to protect them. You're stuck with this dark squared bishop, and it's just simply too passive. Black has no counterplay. Black has literally no moves. He can just wait. The pawn is attacked twice. There's no way for the king to come in defense. And it's a simple win. You can trade it off. And you'll notice, because you understand the concept of key squares. If you don't, then I guess comment and I can make a video on it. But it's very simple. The king controls the 3 key squares for this pawn on the 4th rank. And it's very easily queening. And if you can't queen with a queen and or if you can't checkmate with a queen and a king, then you probably didn't make it this far in the game anyway. Okay, so now we can look at a situation where black can actually draw. Black can draw this position down the exchange. There's no way for white to win simply because of the fact that this bishop can protect the light squares, and also we're going to see that it can pose some counterplay, attacking white's pawn here. So let's get into it. Immediately, white can throw in this check just like before. We're trying to force the king away and go after this pawn, right? Simple. King back, white king comes in, and we immediately see, black can give a check here. And unfortunately, this is not a winning endgame because it's simply a draw. There's no way that either king is going to win this, so white is not going to sack the exchange. King continues to come in, bishop back, and you'll see we form this wall. There's no way for white to penetrate and look to attack this pawn like it did before. Why? Because the light squares are covered by the bishop. The dark square bishop could never cover this square, and once the king was forced away, there was no way to protect the light squares, but the light square bishop does it. Here, all we need to do is bring our king forward. E6 works. E6 is drawing, but F6 also works, and it maintains this nice diagonal for the bishop. The white king can come in, and it looks scary, right? It looks like black might lose the pawn, but you forgot. Look at this. This pawn, defended by the king, and black can come in and attack. And If you try and attack my pawn, if you try and attack my black pawn, I'm going to take your pawn. And then it is black who is going to look to promote this guy. So super interesting. White is forced to drop the rook back. You can just wait with the bishop, and now we can give checks. We're just going to give checks and attack the pawn, no matter where the king goes. Rook is forced here. There's nothing else to do. And we can just go back and forth, etc. And this is a draw because we are able to develop counterplay. Why is this important? It's important to know because you need to understand, like when you're going into an endgame, let's say you're a few moves away from this. Like you're thinking, oh, should I trade off my dark squared bishop? Should I keep my light squared bishop? It's getting to that point in the game where you're approaching an endgame. You need to know what's drawing and what's winning. If you trade down into this endgame thinking it's a draw, you're going to lose. That sucks. No way. If you're in this endgame, you're going to win. Your opponent might greedily take your dark squared bishop for their dark squared bishop, leaving this, it seems like it's winning, right? You're up material, rook versus bishop, the rook's more powerful, it's worth more points, but it doesn't matter because this bishop actually becomes strong enough to prevent white from winning this. So this is just a basic endgame, something that you should know and understand when to trade into it and when not to. So that's all she wrote.